What's going on? Y'all, the channel, the Debt Free Dad, and why? Why in the world is Ti and his son getting arrested important to any damn topic related about finance? Well, I'm gonna give y'all a few gems on why this is pivotal because it's something that everybody needs to hear. In this video, we're gonna talk about financially privileged children and generational wealth. So when we talk about the importance of this story and how it relates to finances, think about it. 1 year, it takes literally 1 year, one generation, 70% of the wealth is lost in the second generation. So think about it. You become your first generation millionaire. By the time you pass it to your kids gonna screw things up most likely, and 700,000 of that million that you work hard to attain is gone out the window. Even worse, by the time you get to that third generation, 90% of the wealth is lost. So having financially privileged children, teaching children about finances is pivotal. Today, that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm also working to try to make sure that I got this music on the intro right because it's hard as hell when I do it live. So we about to get it. Let's go in. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about the situation. We're going to talk a little bit about the why. We're going to talk a little bit about the numbers behind the why it is important, why we need to know this. What's good? Appreciate you joining in with the first comment of the day. Hey, respect, props to you. I like her. That's a strong Second Amendment rights believing sister. Great content as well, especially her lives. Her lives are dope. So I even took notes. See, your boy trying to be a little bit professional right now. So when we talk about the why, the first thing that we're going to talk about is generational wealth. What is the point of busting your ass, working hard financially to make a lot of bread, and you know what happened to it? Your kids screw it all up. Like me personally, I say this all the time, but if my kids are going to fumble the ball when I give it to them, you know what I'm going to do? Hey, I'm leaving everything to my alma mater, and I'm leaving everything to the Pit Bull Association of America because I don't want to fund stupidity. I'm going to try everything in my power to avoid funding stupidity. Not saying that, hey, my kids are stupid. I'm just saying that it's my job to make sure I do the right steps to protect whatever it is that I build for the next generation. What's going on, sis? Hey, I appreciate you tuning in. So when we talk about that, I took a look. The first thing we got to look at is, like we talking money, we talking generational wealth. Let's just put this into context to see how much Ti is worth. I actually looked at Ti and Tiny's net worth. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it up on the screen real quick so y'all can see it. If you can't see it, Ti's worth $60 million is his overall net worth. Again, that's not how many M's he got in the bank per se, and it could be higher because a lot of times these things are inaccurate as hell. But what we do know is $60 million. I even looked up his wifey to see what the wifey's worth, $5 million. So we're talking about a combined net worth for him and his wife of $65 million. So mathematically, let's think about it. Statistically, his kids are going to lose 45.5% or 45.5 million of his 65 million net worth. If we break it down to what the dollars would play out. So statistically, 70% of the wealth is lost. So 45.5 million of his 65 million will be gone out the door. By the time the grandkids roll around, you're talking 58.5 million out of this 65 million gone. So that's crazy as hell. And you got to figure out a way how to stop that. And so the first thing we got to talk about is privileged children. And if you don't have children, if you have children, y'all already know, hey, you're going to love your kids to death. But hey, those little, you know what? Sometimes they're going to be ungrateful as hell. That's just kind of what it is. If you don't have kids, be ready for your hard work and everything that you do to make their life better to be unappreciated. hey, I'm just going to be honest. That's just kind of what it is. So when we talk about financially privileged children, I'm not really sure how that is. I'm not really sure. No, I think well, I'm not really sure how accurate or how to define, the word privilege in the context that I'm using it. It may be more the lines of entitled, ungrateful. I don't know. I think that is accurate, sis. I don't know. It may or may not be. We know, but I know he got the museum. He has a clothing line. He has actually did a short where he talks about all of his rental properties that he had. So I'm gonna give him credit that he has the streams of income to support that. I honestly don't think that Ti is a dumb guy. Like I honestly think if I had to line up rappers who were actually smart, Ti would be like a lot of them, but Ti would be probably in the top, 5 or 6 percentile. I don't think he's a dumb guy. So the money actually might be accurate, but we know those numbers. We're just gonna rock with the 65 million because that's what we were able to find just through open source research. And so I don't know how are we defining privilege. See, somebody defined it to me. Spoiled. Privilege, we're going to define as spoiled and entitled. And so when I break that down further, for me, spoiled and entitled means that kids don't think they have to work for nothing. They think that all the sweat and effort and hard work you put in is their reward to use at their discretion to do whatever the hell they want. Especially once you're gone. I'm gonna be coming back from the grave haunting people if they messing things up. But it's funny because we got to look at the full context of the story. The first thing is, what the hell was T.I.'s son arrested for? Like, I know it's funny his son was arrested. It was all over the internet. Nobody know what the hell his son was arrested for. And it's funny, I credit to them. They have done a magnificent job of actually keeping it off of the internet, whatever it was. But I'll tell you, it was nothing serious. There's no way it could be nothing serious because the dude was out in one day, clearly made bond, not an issue at all. Yeah, I give Ray J. I don't think Ray J's dumb either. I don't know if he would make that list of. I really wouldn't call him an artist, so to speak, but smartest reality stars, he would be on that list. And so that's the other thing too. I actually went back and looked at video, and I think I have a unique perspective on how people who want to be tough or presume to be tough or in the streets think. I mean, hey, we all grow up with certain backgrounds and certain friends and colleagues and associates and acquaintances. Not to mention, hey, I've been doing this law thing for a while, so I represented some real street guys. I represented some flaky, not real street guys, and been on the opposite side of the table as well. So I seen it all, and I actually looked to just kind of do some open source research to see, like, hey man, let's see what T.I.'s son is actually talking about. Let's see just kind of what he talked about. And I found this hilarious clip that I thought was funny. I'm gonna play it real quick. I'm not gonna make it too long because it was hilarious. But I could tell from this clip that this guy really thinks he's tough. So he goes to a Waffle House and they mess his order up, and he goes back into the restaurant. Shout out to the media YouTuber because that's where I found this video out. But just check out this video. And I saw this video and watched it for 13 seconds and was like, yeah, this dude really do think he tough, like he wasn't growing up with a silver spoon in his mouth.
Stop talking. This ain't your fucking restaurant. This ain't your fucking restaurant. Everything you make, I can pull out my pocket right now. I ain't tripping on you. I ain't tripping. Get that out of my face. I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you.
All right, enough of that because that's kind of crazy. But literally, in watching that one clip, I was able to say, like, okay, yeah, this dude is really arrogant. He really do think that he grew up in a trap that his pops rapped about when that clearly wasn't the case, And so what he was arrested for, they did a good job keeping it under wraps. It probably is something simple like it probably is something simple like, well, not simple. Well, yeah, I say simple, like maybe a DUI, something like that. But I'm not going to speculate because I couldn't find any hardcore evidence out there of what it was. But that's kind of what it is. So, all right. Now this is a good question because we have to dive on why did this happen? You know what I mean? And I'm about to tell you, that's one thing that I never understood. And I'm actually touch on, is this Ti's fault or not, right? And then, of course, when there's a messed up situation, there's always plenty of blame to go around and touch on everybody, right? But I never understood why. And I don't know if y'all know this. If y'all know this or seen something like this, y'all put like a one or something in the comments. But I never understood why people who are privileged go the extra mile to be hardcore or be street. It's wild. I was just talking to my homeboy today, and we was talking about somebody we grew up with, and this person was, hey, when it came to just kind of being out there, he was out there, but he had every advantage that a person could have. He was like, you ever live in a neighborhood where like all y'all go to the public school, but this one person goes to like an affluent private school? So that was kind of the situation. So it was no need. Now, like, I could rationalize why people hustle and do things like that when they come from a place that's broke as hell. But when you have every financial advantage at your disposal, it's really a common thing that people who are financially privileged and kids who are financially privileged, because they want to impress their friends, they do a lot of street stuff even though they don't have to. Like, this individual will give him a made up nickname, kind of made up nickname. His nickname around the way was Preparatory, essentially. like when your nickname is Preparatory, it's because, hey man, you clearly affluent, you clearly have some resources, your family have resources. But this person, when it came down to doing stuff in the street, they was down for it. So I guess the first question is, or the first comment is, a lot of times people who are financially privileged, who don't have to, want to be street, want to do stuff. I mean, you could let's talk about somebody who's well known in the urban black community. Biggie Smalls. Biggie Smalls was on a corner hustling, but he really didn't have to. If you watch any documentary, watch an interview with his mother, he was kind of a middle class kid, but the street life was he's acting like the rubber band man, but the street life was just kind of out there calling him. So that's point number one. And I think the same reason people overspend is the same reason people who don't need to hustle and have financial resources choose to hustle, because they want to impress people. Why? The same reason people buy stuff that they can't afford is the same exact reason why somebody who can have whatever they want, they got a brand new car at 16. Why else would a person like that go out there and do knucklehead stuff, go out there and sell drugs? They damn sure don't need the money. They got all the resources. They just trying to impress people. So I think that's really a big deal with just kind of how T.I.'s son act. Now, credit to T.I., all of his other kids appear to be like outstanding, like killing it in school, doing everything. And I'm not talking about, I don't want nobody to take this video as me talking about this young man, because the dude's 18. Everybody's going to have growing pains. Everybody's going to have bumps and bruises. Hell, your brain not even developed until you like 25. So those things are going to happen. There's growing pain, and there's plenty of time for this dude to make a mistake and rectify those mistakes. But before we dive into a little bit more, let's talk about whose fault is this, okay? Because it was a comment that Nay put up there earlier that said it's T.I.'s fault, right? Now, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if it's necessarily T.I.'s fault. I agree. I think they do want to be accepted. Yeah, and that could be true, because if you're privileged, he could be getting teased, and I mean, I think that's the other reason why he flexes on Instagram, because you can't flex with a bunch of other kind of preppy kids, you know what I mean? But you can flex on Instagram because people see it and be like, oh man, you doing something hardcore or gangster. But we all were kind of young and stupid at some point. But is this really T.I.'s fault? Like, I don't know. For me, and y'all let me know y'all take on it. He has some acting classes. He's posing. He a wankster. But y'all let me know. Like, I don't really think this. I hate to say it. Like, I don't really think there's much that a parent can do to keep their privileged child that they're trying to bring up. And it is without a question, T.I. is trying to bring his child up with advantages that he didn't have. And that's what all of us are doing. You know what I mean? We all are doing that. But I think the thing that's, you know, in trying to bring him up with those advantages, he's clearly privileged. He's clearly a little bit entitled. Um, I don't doubt that T.I. is actually passing the right lessons along, but I'm gonna just tell y'all personally, if somebody wants to be in the streets, I don't care if they 15, 16, 17, this dude 18. If somebody want to be in the streets don't discriminate. The streets don't discriminate. I said the streets. Yeah, y'all heard me. The streets do not discriminate based on your race, your religion, your background, your financial status. If you want to play in the streets, if you want to roll in the streets, you going, hey, the streets is there waiting for you. I think the only thing I tell you right now, when I was a teenager, there was really nothing that either one of my parents could have done to keep me from doing anything that I wanted to do in the streets. It wasn't. I mean, they working full time, they not at the house, and at the end of the day, I mean, how many hours out of the day are your kids at home under your influence versus the time that they're out and unsupervised by you? So literally, I just don't think that, outside of the lectures, outside of the good old fashioned discipline that won't rise to the level of abuse that parents can do. If your kids are going to make those moves, despite with nobody, very well, it happens, but very rarely are parents like, "Hey, go out there and be in these streets." You know what I mean? Everybody, this ain't Wee Bay in the wild. Most parents, not all, but most parents want their kids to do better than them. But you can't shield them, you can't guard them 24/7. Literally, the only person who can keep you from diving deep into the streets is somebody else who's in the streets. That's what I think is my opinion. I mean, a whipping ain't gonna do anything at 15, 16. Like, I don't know. I can remember getting whippings at 15 and 16, and you just be like, you looking at your watch, like, are you done with this whipping yet? Because I need to. Yeah, I got something I need to do. So, like, I think it is true that there is some accountability because, you think it's a coincidence that, like, Bronny James wants to play basketball like his dad, that Bryce James wants to play basketball like his dad. Nah, kids from the time that they can utter a word are mimicking their parents' curse words, their parents' reactions. So, when you the rubber band man and you talk about the trap, we all know T.I. is as much of a 360 he's made in his life. We all know he had mistakes. He had some gun charges. He had all of that stuff. So a part of it is going to be his kid is trying to probably emulate the lifestyle that T.I. actually had. So I think a part of that is true. Yeah, and that could be true too. Because I did look it up, and that's fun. I had no clue. It sounded like I thought he named his son. Is that's how it's spelled, Damani? I thought it was like the song "If It Ain't About the Money." That's why I thought his name was spelled. But hey, again, like I said, that kid is a amazing, upstanding kid, like a chess prodigy, a burgeoning chess prodigy. So it could be a little bit of competition involved with that as well. So y'all let me know. I'm gonna play this clip real quick with Ti kind of address this situation. You know what I mean? So I think if we have to, let's watch this first, then we're gonna circle back around and address and talk about like kind of who is at fault, how much of this should Ti be willing to be accountable for. So let me play this clip real quick. It's about 3 minutes. Let me see.
Hey, top of the top, top of the top, top of the top. Uh, got a minor request. Got a minor request. Hope everybody having a phenomenal morning. Got a small request, man. Stop hitting me and giving my comments, telling me what to tell King. Okay? I know my son. Think I ain't spoke to my son? Think I ain't told my son, his mama, and his grandmama, his ass going to prison. If you goddamn keep this shit up, his ass going to prison. Ain't no way around it. Ain't nothing I'm gonna be able to do about it. Can't nobody stop it but him. You know what I mean? I've already had the conversation. I've already made my peace with it. Because I know that energy. I was that energy. I know exactly how it's gonna turn out. You can't. No, go ahead. I'm in the middle of something. I'm in the middle of something. Go ahead.
They bothered her. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I now already had that conversation with him, man. King's a good kid, chasing after the wrong shit, and you know, I trust in God to deal with it the way that He see fit. You know what I mean? It ain't really shit outside. You know, he done got all the whoopings, he done got the punishment, he done did it, he done, did everything as a child you could do to him. So now you're gonna have to go through it. You're gonna have to go through it and get through it. And ain't nothing me and mama or nobody else gonna be able to say about it, man. But I'm gonna love him all the way through whatever it is he's going through. You know what I mean? And shit, man, he gonna learn his lessons. Life gonna ain't no, you know what I mean? Life is gonna teach him all the lessons that he need to know. And that's the most that we can do. That's the best we can ask for. You know what I mean? I know who he is at his core. You know what I'm saying? This shit that he trying to, he trying to convince himself of things, as we all do as young men and even young women growing up, try to convince ourselves that we are certain things. And in that journey, we find out exactly who the fuck we really is. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it happens when we least expect it, and our lessons come from where we didn't know they were coming from. And it just ain't shit else to do. Ain't shit else to do, man. Time is gonna be his teacher. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I hope everybody have a peaceful.
All right, so all right, let's circle back and talk about, because I know we had a few people in here who was trying to put some of the blame on the guy Ti. Um, yeah, I think that's what it is. I mean, like, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, like, I can't even remember the last time my son 15, and I can't even remember the last time he did something that was deserving of whipping. Like, you can't whip no 15-year-old kid. This kid 18. It ain't enough whippings you could do. He gonna look at Ti like he crazy. He might be taller than Ti. I don't know how tall he is, but he might be actually taller than Ti. So, when I watched that video, and it's funny because I've seen a lot of people talk about, oh, Ti don't want to be accountable for how he contributed to this. Like, this dude's 18. Like, if we're going to apportion blame, like 80% of the blame is on the person who making the damn actions. You know what I mean? I tell people all the time, and I think this is true, a true bill. I tell people all the time, it's a parent's job to raise their children. It's up to that child if that lesson is going to be a hard one or an easy one. You know what I mean? Hey, I'm gonna give you the jewels. I'm gonna give you the knowledge. When you need information, come to me. I'm gonna give you all the game I can give you so you can survive. But hey, I gave you all the jewels you needed. If you go out there and misstep, and the lesson that you learn got to be a hard one, that's on you. You had everything you had needed to make the lesson not a hard one. You know what I mean? And so I don't really think that, I think Ti did 100% right. He's done everything that he can do. I'm sure he gave him every advantage he could give him. I'm sure he talked to him. I'm sure his mama talked to him, just like he said in the video. This kid just gonna have to learn the hard way. It is what it is. Now, the dope part about this is that, well, not dope part, but the let's see. You smelling yourself. Yeah, I heard that. I think every black person heard that phrase before, you smelling yourself. So let's just kind of, think about this. He clearly trying to impress people who really don't give a damn about what he doing. He just really making himself look goofy. He clearly, a little bit of it is probably him trying to emulate what he heard his father talk about, or probably, or potentially some of the things that he's seen. But at the end of the day, this dude, a grown ass man at 18. At 18, you could go out here and join Uncle Sam's army and kill somebody on behalf of your country. So if you can make that decision at 18, you can make the decision not to do some dumb shit. Now, I'll tell you a big benefit when we talk about, because this is my biggest fear as a parent. you bust your ass and go through all of this stuff trying to make everything better. Like, oh man, my grandkids, they're gonna be dope. They're gonna be better off because I'm trying to make things a little bit better financially, and my kids gonna be a little bit better financially. But as you can see, you can have children grow up in the same household under the same circumstances, and one will be a priest or a pastor, and the other one could be Nino Brown. That's just kind of what it is. So it's really no way you can shield them, and your finances doesn't provide a shield from someone who doesn't want to be protected. Your finances aren't going to provide a shield for somebody who doesn't want to be protected. There's only one person who could really protect anybody from the streets, and that's somebody else who in the streets. So like if Ti was still in the street, oh yeah, he could probably stop his son from doing street stuff. But nah, Ti is not in the street. He's a businessman. So that's kind of one of the things. Now I will tell you from a financial standpoint, when we talk about the loss of generational wealth, 70%, because right now 70%, that first generation, like I said, Ti got a whole gang of kids, so I think he's going to be fine. Plus, he has the resources to make sure he does the things to protect himself. And so that's the other part of it is if you have kids who are privileged, who are irresponsible, what are you going to do? How can you do something to protect your finances? Like, damn, I don't want something to happen to me. I leave everything to a child or a vast majority to a child who's not responsible and they burn it all off. And now my grandkids, they got to start from damn near the same position I started from when that shouldn't be the case. So T.I. is going to be in a position where he's going to be able to have all the things you need to have in place, the insurance. He's going to be able to have the wills. He's going to be able to have all that. Yeah, kids will choose their own path though, but he's going to have his own rock bottom in order to get it. Yeah, and I think that's true with everything, and honestly, I think Ti is probably parenting a lot how I would parent. Now, I don't know. This is just my observation. I think I may have a little gender bias, but I think just from my observations of various families and my family and other people I know closely, it seems like mothers are the ones who want to protect their children from harming themselves at any cost. Like, if that kid is walking, if that kid is 2 and that kid is doing something reckless, mom will go over there and grab that kid before the kid could fall and bust their ass. I think dads are more prone to be like, all right, now you playing over there. If you fall, I ain't coming to get you. And I think that kind of stems true like in this context as well. I know I'm like that. I know me and my wife are like that. Me, no, like, hey, when my kids do something dumb, I'm gonna be like, hey, don't play with that socket. If you over there playing with that socket, when your ass get electrocuted, I bet you won't go back over there and play with the socket. Whereas my wife is the type who's gonna go over there and grab them before they make that mistake. She want to be that safety net that catches them before they hit the ground. Where me, on the other hand, I'm kind of like, man, let his ass hit the pavement. Let her ass hit the pavement. She'll figure it out once she bounce back up. So, it's kind of different, and everybody does it different. And that's not always a mom and dad thing. Sometimes those roles can be reversed, and sometimes those roles can be reversed based on who it is. I mean, it is what it is. My son, hey, son, you're gonna have to fall and get that bruise and learn the hard way. My daughter, I'm gonna be like, you can fall, but I ain't gonna let you fall too hard because I'm gonna hold you up a little bit. that's just what dads do. I think moms do it for their sons. It is what it is. Yeah, I agree. I agree. There are a lot of spoiled kids out there who don't know how to preserve their families well. It was actually a dope documentary. I can't think of the name of it offhand, but it actually tracked like the lives of people who were heirs to some of the biggest fortunes in the world. And a lot of those rich ass people, they didn't play. A lot of, like, I think one of them was like the founder of UPS or something, and his son was like, nah, I don't get a cushy title at UPS. I drive trucks. Like, his son was driving trucks. And there was another young lady who was the heir to some big Fortune 500 company. And she was like, nah, my family don't give me money. The only thing they give me is I get a free college education. And after that, everything I do is kind of on my own. So there's a lot of most of them are probably spoiled, but there are some, very rich heirs and heiresses of some huge fortunes out there who families just like, nah, we not this not designed for you to mess up or make a mistake. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think just as a matter of course, I think moms have a predisposed disposition to protect their sons. You know, and both parents are trying to protect their sons. Think about it. When my wife see my son is doing something stupid and she intervenes, she's trying to protect him in her own way. And when I say, hey, you got to hit the pavement and I'm going to just let them mess up. And if you mess up, you got to deal with the consequences. I'm trying to protect them in my own way as well. So, it, each person is trying to do the same thing. They just go about it doing it completely different. You know what I mean? I agree. We know that. I agree with that comment. The justice system is a system that is biased based on so many things, and your financial status, the color, your place in society, where you at. All of those things go into consideration when it comes to what your outcome is going to be if you are introduced to the justice system. So I think that's a fair point. But what's going on, Dimitri? Thanks for tuning in, bro. I think that's a fair point, but I don't know. This is just my view. You can have, and this is something that I tell my son all the time. If you're a minority in this country, you need to tread carefully because the example will be made with you. There's a lot of times where I was, maybe at a job and I'm the only African American there, I'm the only black person there, or something to that effect. And I already know off the cuff, like, certain things, I need to be cautious of how I maneuver because certain mistakes that you make, they don't care what your position or your title is. You are going to be the one to get made an example of. You know what I mean? And he probably hasn't understood that concept yet because any mistake he made has probably been able to be protected and be sheltered from his parents. But there are some things that he can get into. There's some pitfalls he can get into where whatever how deep your parents' pockets are may not necessarily be able to protect you. You know what I mean? You that mom to a certain extent, and you're still protecting your son, and that's the best way you know how. So it's not a knock on how I say fathers do it to their daughters. You know what I mean? Like, nah, I'm not gonna let my daughter hit the ground too hard. Like, a prime example, and I know this is completely terrible, but if my son moves out and he's on his own and he's 21, 22, and he falls on like some hard times, I already know it's without a doubt. I'm gonna be like, hey, dog, you a man, you got to figure it out. Now, will I help him? I'll help him eventually, but I want him, or I'll help him to some extent. But a lot of that is, hey, dog, you got to figure it out. You 21, you're not gonna get no handouts. Now, should I probably be telling my daughter the same thing? Yeah, but I be damn, I ain't gonna let my baby girl go as far or have to fall. My baby girl not gonna have to fall as close to the ground to learn a lesson. And I think the other part of it is, one is a little bit biased on my part, but the other part of it is I know their personalities. My son is a person who has to learn from physical trial and error, where my daughter is a person who learns from watching him make trials and errors. So, also knowing that about their personalities, she's probably less likely to take a hard dive with a life lesson than he is. Now, that may change. I don't know. Time is still young. Knock on wood, Lord, prepare me. But but that's just kind of what it is at this point. Oh man, I appreciate you watching, bro. Watching those commercials. I appreciate that. Let's see. Yeah, I agree. I posted a clip, and I don't know if you saw the clip. It was a clip of Steve Harvey. I don't know what it is, boy, but people love to watch Steve Harvey. But it's a clip of Steve Harvey, and he said that he told his kids like 80% of the money he got is for him and his wife to enjoy, and that for his kids. Now, 20% of whatever the hell Steve Harvey owned is a lot of damn money. I think that's the other thing we gotta, these numbers aren't created equal when we're talking about percentages of thousands, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. But I think Steve Harvey's point was right. Like, think about it. Let's say you make $100 million, you make $100,000. Yeah, I hope y'all make $100 million too. I wish that and speak that on everybody watching. But let's say you make $100,000, right? You make $100,000 and you get a life insurance policy just to cover you for 10 times that. So you have $1 million life insurance policy. So in the event that something happens to you, your kids are gonna inherit this and collect on this $1 million life insurance policy. Now, let's not consider everything that you invested through your 401k, your Roth IRA, all of that other stuff. I mean, the question asked is, God damn, how much money do you really need to leave your kids? And that goes back to the other point I said where T.I. has the resources to structure his estate to where nobody can screw it up. Like I know one concept that I never knew existed until I got to law school is, you can give somebody a house for as long as they live, and once they pass away it goes to someone else. Or you can give someone, so I give my son a house and you have this house for as long as you live. If he sells that house, he can only sell his interest in that house. So if I give my son a house when I pass away for the rest of his life, if he sell it, the person he sold it to, they only can buy it for as long as my son lives. So there are some really creative ways in wills and trusts that you can kind of, circumvent things to protect your assets. So I don't think T.I. is going to, I think his 65 million total household net worth, which is probably going to be in the hundreds of $millions when it's all said and done, is going to be protected. But everyday people really don't plan for those type of contingencies. I mean, I tell you right now, I love my mother to death, and I've been talking to her about a will, and I literally have no clue if she ever got it done. And that I honestly don't think she got it done. Like, at least with my father, I know where all of his important papers and documents are. Like, so I had to tell my mother, like, hey, write everything down in a notebook and put it in a drawer, and just tell me everything you need to know if something happened is in this drawer. Because a lot of people, I mean, a lot of people just don't like to talk about their untimely demise. A lot of people don't like to discuss those things, so they avoid it. And everyone has a will. Everyone has an estate plan. If you die, the state where you live at, they have an estate plan on how they'll pass your stuff out to your people who survive you. So definitely you have to do that. That's what fathers are supposed to do. I think it would be he's not supposed to let you fall. He's supposed to let you get the fear of hitting the ground and then catch you right before you hit the ground. I mean, I think that's the whole goal of it. And so, when we kind of talking about these privileged children, at the end of the day, I hate to tell what's going on, sis. Thanks for tuning in. I hate to tell anybody who's a parent this, but you can't control whatever the hell your kid's gonna do. And I know that bothers me because I like to be in control. That bothers me, but hey, your kids are gonna make the decisions. All you could do is give them the jewels, the gems, and the information. Like, I already know probably the end of this year or sometime in the next few months, I'm actually going to go through the process of getting a trust created, because I feel like I'd be doing my family a disservice if I didn't get a trust created. And you can do some creative shit with a trust. You can put your life insurance policy inside of a trust. I mean, you can do a whole bunch of creative things with a trust to ensure that no matter how frivolous someone may be with finances, they can't burn all of your estate's money, all of the money that you work hard to build and cultivate. Because we just don't know what ills, what perils are going to be out there. We don't know how long our time is. As it is what it is. As gloomy as that may sound, it is what it is. So we have to have a contingency plan. And I remember when someone told me this, I was talking to a partner of mine who's a little bit older, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I just went ahead and got a trust done, because you got a will and everything, but what if something happened to the entire family while you was on vacation?" Really, think about it. A lot of people don't think about that. Y'all all traveling as a collective unit and something happens, and how that would trigger how your assets, how your estates are passed on. So it's kind of wild. I know people don't like to talk about death. When my father actually got a will, and when he was going to the process, this dude called me and literally started an argument, because I think it was just him thinking of, oh man, at some point I'm not going to be here, and what's going to happen. But he would literally call. I love my father, but he would literally call, and I could tell he was a little extra feisty in his voice, and it ended up creating an entirely big argument. I remember it was something to the effect man, I said something to the effect of, because I don't know. And I don't know. Y'all tell me. I think I can only speak for what I see. So I see it a lot in the Black community, because that's what I see all the time, right? People really want to control how stuff is handled by someone when you're no longer here. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the absolute wrong time to think you want to control it. People will actually tell you, if something happened to me, don't you do this with that. Well, if you don't want me to do this with that, leave the shit to somebody else. like real talk. I mean, there's enough vehicles out here. There's enough ways for you to directly dictate what you want to happen. But we don't do that a lot of times. A lot of times we may not have a will. If we have a will, we just leave it to somebody. And I've seen this so many times. Don't you sell that house that I worked so hard to almost pay off, but I may not pay it off completely. It makes no sense. For me, I never want to leave someone anything that would be considered a burden. So let's say I have no trust and all I had was a will, and I left house A to my daughter and house B to my son. Do whatever the hell you want to do with it, because my ass not here. Do whatever is in the best interest of your family. But a lot of times I don't see my people taking the proper steps to structure things so they can protect themselves. So they'll actually I lie to you now. I've seen people say, "Hey, don't you sell that. And if you sell it, I'm gonna come back here and haunt your ass." And they actually mean that shit. It's really crazy, but they really do mean it. You know what I mean? Well, I can talk about it a little bit in general, but essentially, a trust is a real high speed way to protect your assets from moving on when you do have your, hopefully, demise after being on the earth for a long ass time. And so the difference between a will and a trust, when you leave things and they pass through a will or they pass through intestate succession, that means you didn't have a will and the state dictates how they give your stuff away. There are some tax consequences, and trust can prevent you from some tax consequences. Trust can protect you from sometimes divorce, alimony. Some trust can be divorce proof. Now it depends on what type of trust, and there's different nuances, but a trust in general affords you more protection. So my general plan for how I plan on using my trust, and I'm gonna just use a generic number. Let's say I had a $1 million life insurance policy, right? I'm gonna just keep it clean. How I would probably use a trust, and how I'm probably going to structure it for my benefit was, and I'm just going to use $1 million life insurance policy because that's easy. Let's say I didn't do anything financially and no assets. All I had was this $1 million life insurance policy. I pass away, but this life insurance policy is inside of a trust. Now, let's say the average return is 10% a year. So you're making 10% on that $1 million. You can have a trust, and that trust can dictate if you have 2 kids. Think about how life-changing this would be. I want my trust to pay my child A and my child B $20,000 a year for as long as they live. So you got $40,000 coming out of your trust that has a $1 million essentially $1 million in it from a life insurance policy. That $1 million is earning 10% a year, give or take, even if it's 8 or 9%. But the market typically does somewhere between 8 to 10% a year on average. But you're giving each of your children $20,000 a year for the rest of their life to be dispersed on the first of each year. Think about how that would change your life if your parents gave you $20,000 a year for the rest of your life. Now, that $20,000 or that $40,000 total that you're giving 20 to child A, 20 to child B is never impacting the principal. That $1 million is never going down because that $1 million is earning 10% interest because it's invested in the market. So that's kind of my general idea on how, if I'm talking about it from a really narrow standpoint, but I'm going to structure my trust something to that effect, where if you want to start a business, you can get a loan from the trust and you have to pay the trust back at 2% or 3%. That 2 or 3% would be a lot less than a loan that they probably would get from your typical financial institution. You can mandate if I want to start a business, I can borrow. If my children want to start a business, they can borrow up to $40,000 to start a business from the trust. But there can be contingencies where they have to present a business plan. It has to go through a financial planner to make sure that the business plan and the profit. I mean, you can structure it in a way where it's so specific and narrowly tailored that you can protect your assets and you can never spend that principal that's in that trust. You can just make moves with the interest, make loans from the trust to be repaid to family members for certain things that they want to do. If it's like starting a business or something like that, or even if they needed money to go to school, you can pay it out right from the trust, or you can give them a 1% loan that they could borrow from the trust that has to be paid back over X amount of time. It's so many dope ways that you can do it in a trust. So a lot of people got to really be able to navigate it. But that's one thing. We don't like to do that. I don't know what it is with my people. And again, I can only speak from what I see, but we don't like to talk about death. We don't like to talk about the next generation. For sure, there's no way, even though T.I.'s son is probably a little bit privileged, a little bit entitled, like I said, he young, he gonna make mistakes. He probably gonna get his stuff together and be a real productive citizen. But there's no way that T.I. has his estate set up to where one knucklehead kid can blow off entire generation of wealth. I know for a damn fact he's not doing it because his pocket's too deep. But we got to think like that with, no matter how much money we got. Whether you got $1 million, whether you got 50,000, it's all worth something. And if you plan it out right, it'll be there for the next generation, depending on how you can do it. You know what I mean? Yeah, whole life a term. I tell you before I even give my take on that is I see the benefit to both, but I'm a term guy. You know what I mean? A lot of people, a lot of people like you'll be amazed that I put a clip up where Waka Flocka was talking about the rapper. There may be some people who don't know who he is, but he was talking about how he's like, I never go broke because I just borrow from my life insurance policy. And you'll be amazed at how many goons was like, I'm not gonna say goons, but how many people who were unaware of the life insurance structure were talking about like, man, what's that this Walker's talking about? And in order to borrow from a life insurance policy, you actually have to have money to put in it. So I do see where there's benefit, but I'm a term life insurance guy. You can get a term policy for little to nothing. You can get a term policy 10 times your income if you're making six figures and pay less than $70 a month if you're in good health. So I'm a term guy. I can see a benefit for a whole life insurance policy, but right now I'm rolling with term. Maybe if I would have started at 18, I would have thought differently. And at some point, I'll tell you, I actually do have an insurance professional on who's going to break that down. I'm going to do an interview with. He's going to break that down so we can get all of those nuances. You know what I mean? Well, it really depends. If you go through the process of getting a will or trust done, your beneficiary in that policy is probably going to match up with it. Like I, I can't find any attorney or someone who is a state attorney who would say, "Hey, let's do your trust and get your will done." And oh, I forgot, your policy was in your ex-wife name, and we never switched that over. Like I just don't see that happening. So if you go through the process of getting the will, getting the trust done, they'll actually give you as a long ass checklist. You can't just walk in there and be like, "Hey, I need y'all to do A, B, and C." They're gonna give you a long ass checklist of things. So those are all the T's that's gonna get crossed and the I's that are gonna get dotted to make sure that everything is structured correctly and there's no room for anything to be challenged because of a mishap, because you identified in your trust or your will you wanted A, but you forgot to change your beneficiary from your ex-wife, who pretty much, sorry about that, I had a phone thing going on. So they'll structure everything. An extra 20K a year, think about it. If that's all you gave your kids, if think about it, if all you gave your kids off of $1 million life insurance policy was, "I'm gonna put that $1 million in a trust, that $1 million is earning 10% a year, and son, I'm gonna give you $20,000 a year for as long as you live. Daughter, I'm gonna give you $20,000 a year for as long as you live." That's a game changer. Like, if you can't make the moves, one, your kids do have to have some responsibleness to them, but that something as simple as that is a game changer. Yeah, I'm not a whole guy. I'm a term guy. Term is just cheaper. Like I said, whole does have its benefits, but I tell you, it's just not for me. But I do have an insurance professional. I'm gonna do a live. We're gonna have a conversation and break it down. And I'm pretty sure he won't be able to convince me of the benefits of whole life insurance policy, because I have family members who have whole life insurance policies that they've been putting money in for decades, and the return on that stuff was just atrocious. So I stay away. I stay away like the plague. That's just me personally. Well, I don't think they. But that's I don't think they would. I think if you want your family to not fight, you should have a trust, because it ain't going to be much just to fight about. That trust is going to be, now you go to get a trust done. It's not like a legal Zoom where you go online and put what you have and type it down. You have professionals who are creating this trust for you. Their entire job is to make sure this trust is detailed down to the nuances. So, like, I had a great grandmother, Lord bless her. When she passed away, she left her house to like 16 people. And she was actually trying to do the right thing by, like, "I'm gonna leave this house to 16 people." It was the biggest headache in the world, because this was a house. Think about it, this was a house that my great great grandfather essentially had built. And the documentation, this house, like, my great great grandfather couldn't even sign his name. I actually have the paperwork to where he put an X on the paper, because that was, he couldn't write. So he wrote the X down with the bank when he got everything done to have his house built. It was crazy. The actual story of it is, during the time of sharecropping, he would get paid in land. So that's how my family ended up acquiring a lot of land down south. He was a builder. He could build homes, and as he would build stuff, he would get paid in land. Don't pay me in cash, Mr. Such and Such. Peterkin is the name, if y'all want to know. But the Peterkins would pay my great great grandfather in land, and so we acquired a large amount of land down south from his efforts, and he couldn't even sign. So when my grandmother passed, she was like, "I want to keep this house in the family, so I'm gonna leave it to all 16 people, or 12, whatever. It was like double digits, and it was crazy, because you know what happened? Half of them wanted to keep the damn house. The other, no, I ain't even gonna say half of them. Two of them wanted to keep the house, and the remaining 74 was like, "We selling this shit. Give us that money." It was terrible, and like nobody was willing to work. Like, I tell you, it was like me and my pops was like the only two people who was like, "Let's keep the house." So we was like, "Hey, family, give us X amount of time, like 45 days, to get all the bread together, and we'll do what we need to do to buy everybody out." You think they was willing to wait 45 days to get their money? Hell no. We had to do what we had to do, pull some strings, move some things around to get that money ASAP, because family members don't play. So if you don't want your family to fight, you better have a trust. If you want your family to fight, have a will that's really flimsy and not specific, or don't have a will at all. And that'll be, just kind of terrible. Now that's a good thought. I do think that's a good idea to have a. I thought about doing that actually. I thought about having a. I thought about having. I got a term life. I thought about getting a whole life. Right. Tell me how this was my thought process for that. Right. I thought about getting a whole life insurance policy, and getting that policy once I have a 1 year emergency fund saved up. Because if I got a 1 year emergency fund saved up, I'm not making any interest if I put that money in a savings account. No, it's an emergency fund. It's there if I need it. So if I had a year worth of emergency funds saved up, in that situation, I could see how it would be beneficial to put it in a whole life insurance policy because I'll probably get a higher rate of return. I probably get a higher rate return than I would in a savings account. And if I have the whole policy structured right, I can borrow my money anytime for emergency and just kind of pay it back, pay myself back. So I think that is a good way to do it. That's something that I actually thought about doing as well. Right now, I'm just rocking with the term, but I think that's a good thing, that's worth talking to a professional about who's kind of in that space. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm definitely going to get one. I'm definitely going to get a tax professional. The next live I do is going to be well, it might be interesting. I think it's going to be my realtor. I was looking for a realtor who was out there, and I said, "Who's the best realtor to talk to?" I was like, "My realtor," because I got on her last nerve. So, but yeah, that's kind of our take. We know that. Hey, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thanks. We know that Ti is not going to let a potential knucklehead child ruin his entire family's wealth. So the money takeaway from all of this is we have to put ourselves in position to where we can prepare for potential outcomes and potential risk. And you love your kids. I love my kids, but kids do pose certain risks because they may not take to the lessons that you're providing. They may be bad with money. So you got to take those advantages, look at those vehicles, wills, trust, irrevocable trust. There's a whole bunch out there that could be delved into, but there are all ways to protect your assets. Y'all working hard, busting y'all ass so y'all can have a better life for yourself and for your kids. Don't let your kids ruin it for their kids. That's just kind of, my takeaway. You got on your realtor's last nerve. I got you. If you're buying a home, and this is outside of it, but if you're buying a home, it's your job to get on your realtor's last nerve. You know why? Because your home, people's home is the biggest purchase that 99.9% of the people living on this planet is going to make. You're probably not going to buy a car more than the house that you live. Your house is your biggest purchase, so you have to take it. And I can tell you, it's two reasons why I get on my realtor's nerve. It's two reasons. When I bought my first house, I didn't get on my realtor's nerves because I didn't know shit. So I couldn't get on your nerves if I didn't have the information. Now, when I got my next house, I had already been in law school. I have negotiated settlements with against pharmaceutical companies and for large sums of money. So a part of it was me being arrogant, was like, I can negotiate a deal for a house that's only this much. This ain't rocket science. This is what I do. So I was kind of being an asshole, but I was kind of being a little bit of an asshole. So she would say, like, oh, it was funny because she would say, I don't think they're gonna go for that deal. My wife over there crying because she want the house, and I'm over there like, well, if they don't go for the deal, we'll walk away. I don't give a damn. So it was a big mess, but I think you should get on your realtor's nerve because it's the biggest purchase you're going to make. Hey, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Y'all take care. Be blessed. Y'all make sure y'all check out the video on the screen for more content. And of course, I just said that for the replay value. Y'all be blessed. Love y'all. Peace.